It is 1938. In Washington, our military leaders, well aware of the growing tension in the Pacific, are proposing to a disturbed Congress the development of the defenses of Guam. With the expansion of harbor facilities and airfields, Guam can become our most defensible forward bastion against the coming aggression. Checkmate to the Japanese-held islands of Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. Facts not unknown to Tokyo. For among the things which must be accomplished if Japan's dream of conquest is to be, are the invasion of the Philippines, destruction of the American fleet, and the capture of Guam. Thus anchored against attack from the east, the Japanese forces can sweep southward toward Australia. As proponents of the expansion submit their estimates, the enemy counters with a well-planned, well-timed propaganda barrage. Japan will consider any such construction as an unfriendly act. The cards have been dealt. Bluff at international level pays off. Quick to seize his advantage, the enemy rushes construction of secret fortifications and airfields on Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, all in the Marianas, all within easy bombing range of Guam, all in violation of the Washington Naval Conference, all ready for the day. Guam, blue chip of Pacific defense, has been lost in the game of international poker.
Here is your host, General Holland M. Smith, former Commanding General, Fleet Marine Force Pacific Area, United States Marine Corps.
The history of Guam is synonymous with unpreparedness. In 1521, it was discovered by Magellan, who reported its value to Spain. The Spaniards promptly invaded, captured, and failed to fortify it. In 1898, the USS Charleston, en route to the Philippines, stopped off and advised the Spanish governor that we were at war with his country. He was powerless to oppose us, and Guam had its second owner in modern history. Later, we paid Spain $20 million for the right to keep it and Puerto Rico. But history repeated itself. We too neglected its defenses with sad and far-reaching results.
Since the presidential order of December 23, 1898, the administration of the civil affairs of Guam has been under the control of its naval commandant, usually a captain. To give the natives a voice in the administration of their affairs, the Council of Advisors is established. Although military development of Guam is held in abeyance, much is done to improve the lives of the native population. At the Washington Naval Conference of 1922, Japan and the United States pledged their sacred national honors that neither will fortify their holdings in the Central Pacific. Our promise is kept. The only troops stationed on the island are those of the tiny Marine garrison who, together with the militia force of native Chamorros, compose Guam's entire defensive strength. By 1941, the native population has more than doubled from the original 9,000 that were on the island when the Navy took over. Under the paternal and benevolent American administration, they are a kindly, industrious, happy people. Their population is spread 1/2 in the capital city of Agana, 3,000 in the villages within a 10-mile radius, and the remainder in coastal villages and farming areas. To most Americans of the 1930s, Guam is a faraway outpost, the center of cable communications, a clipper stop on the way to Manila. To the Japanese High Command, it is the only base save Pearl Harbor, which can pose a direct threat to their coming Pacific operations. On December 8, 1941, Japan makes her move. The only weapons larger than a .30 caliber available to the garrison are the anti-aircraft guns of the minesweeper USS Penguin. She is the first target. The Penguin is sunk. Her survivors join the garrison ashore. The attack continues through the daylight hours. 80 Guamanians of the Insular Force Guard muster in Agana to protect the government buildings against the anticipated land attack. The 28 Marines of the Insular Patrol man their posts throughout the island. On Orote Peninsula, the 6 officers, 1 warrant officer, and 118 enlisted Marines, the complement of the Marine Barracks Sume under Lieutenant Colonel McNulty, take positions in the butts of the rifle range on the Marine Reservation. The defenders of Guam, all 655 of them, face toward the sea. Face toward invasion. Face toward 5,900 Japanese. Rather than jeopardize the lives of the civilians in the face of overwhelming odds, the island commander surrenders the island to the Japanese naval commander shortly after 0600, December 9th. Guam has fallen in mere hours. At first, the Japanese make an effort to gain the friendship of the Guamanians. Their first antagonistic move is to change the name of the island. Further dictums are forthcoming. Schools will teach Japanese instead of English. Strict rationing will be instituted. Entire families will be punished for any disobedience of the individual. When the Japanese begin to build up the defenses, the Guamanians are pressed into forced labor gangs.
When Japanese army units begin returning to the island as reinforcements in 1944, all pretense is dropped. Worship of God is forbidden, and schools are closed. All food supplies are seized. Forced labor demands increase. On a starvation diet. And no diet for those too aged a week to wake. Finally, all people living in the military area are ordered from their homes, sent inland to the concentration camps. Medical supplies are limited. Sanitation non-existent. Hundreds died. This is what happened to the children. These people were our friends. They looked to us for protection. This was their lot.
Such was Guam's introduction to Japan's greater East Asian co-prosperity sphere. It is the early spring of 1944.
By now, our Pacific campaign was well underway. Guadalcanal, the Solomon,
marshals were all behind. We were ready for the first major reconquest of Japanese-held American territory. In planning the invasion of Guam, we planned to apply certain tactical maneuvers which had proven so effective at Saipan. Terrain maps were made and distributed to the troops so they would be familiar with their objectives. Our Army companion, the 77th Division, was raw with no previous experience, but it showed combat efficiency to a degree one would expect only of veteran troops. Its aggressive patrolling, close coordination with other units, and superior conduct of assigned missions gave evidence of its good training, fine leadership, and high morale. When we called on the 77th to move, it moved, and it moved fast. I pay them tribute now because this story is only of the Marines' participation in the recapture.
Division lands north of Opera Harbor. The 3rd Battalion, 21st Marines, moves rapidly inward and secures its first objective, a low height of land behind the pulverized town of Asan. The 2nd Battalion meets heavier going. Heat and long shipboard confinement have taken their toll of physical stamina, but they will not be stopped. Artillery pins them down. They hang on grimly as the 3rd Battalion moves up on their right, and the 1st consolidates the sector behind them. The 9th Marines on the extreme right accomplish their several objectives by carrying forward, establishing the right perimeter beyond the beach area, securing Habris Island, and extending the right flank of the causeway. Have the roughest going. Machine guns and emplacements on the forward and reverse faces of Shonito Cliff produce withering fire. Inch by inch, we win a hill, only to find a higher one just ahead, which also must be taken. As perimeters expand, the lines grow thin. Requests for reinforcements are denied because of the strong resistance being met by the Southern forces. At night, shore parties, pioneers, engineers, bandsmen, cooks, wandering sailors, anyone who can be collected is used for night security. The Japanese were unpredictable. Their attack of D+5 was carefully planned and organized.
But they kept coming. On the right, they attacked the battalion command post before we even knew they'd achieved a breakthrough. Every Marine fought.
Our cooks are fighters first, and cooks second, so they grabbed their weapons. Service troops rolled hand grenades down on the enemy. Everyone fought. The 1st Provisional Brigade, under the command of Brigadier General Lemuel C. Shepard, Jr., has landed between the village of Agat and Bangui Point. Bangui Point is well named. We lose 20 Amtraks to enemy fire. Marines on the right are to establish a beachhead perimeter and reinforce for counterattacks from the south. The 22nd is to land on the left, secure that end of the perimeter, and drive northward to cut off the neck of Orate Peninsula. The 305th Infantry will land behind assault regiments, move through assault units, and take over a sector of the line. By nightfall, the 4th Marines reach the foot of Mount Oliphant. Tanks operate through the groves and help to withstand the first night's counterattack. They drive us off hill number 40. Reinforcements help retake it. Slow. They have well-prepared positions and deep. The front over which we must advance is narrow, bounded on the right by the cliffs, on the left by the sea. They know where we are, and they are ready. They are depending on their tanks to stop us, but they are no match for our own. Our bazookas, or even in certain spots, our machine guns. We can also stop them by tossing grenades in their tracks. Naval gunfire and artillery pour into areas ahead of us. Our planes bomb and strafe. Parachutes to safety. But the main work is for the foot Marine, and we work at it. For 6 days we work at it. Then begin to see signs of their cracking. On the 8th day, we retake the old Marine barracks. As we stand on the site which was a resistance point for other Marines in 1941, we are heartened. They are avenged. Nearby is the flagpole. Proudly we unfurl the flag, hoist it to the heavens. Significantly, the call to colors is played on a captured Japanese bugle, whose owner is not present to object. By D+20, organized resistance is over. Mopping up will continue for months.
According to the logistics of planning, the invader must be prepared to lose 2 men to one of the enemy. If this had happened to the Marines and the 77th Army Division, American casualties would have been over 36,000, as the enemy lost over 18,000 killed and 485 prisoners. Our actual loss was 1,519 Marines, 178 Army, and 50 Navy dead. For every American dead, the enemy lost 10 men. This extremely low casualty ratio was not an accident. It was a result of the heavy, accurate naval gunfire and aerial bombing which knocked out emplacements before we landed. It was a result of careful planning by the admirals and generals who managed to achieve tactical surprise by hitting where we were not expected. It was a result of conditioning exercises which kept us in top physical condition. It was a result of rigid training that builds confidence in your ability to overcome the adversary. It was a result of perfecting the techniques of assault to reduce with minimum losses. It was a result of better equipment, more firepower, ample supply. It was a result of raw courage, which in turn is the result of faith. Around us we see the evidence of Japanese culture. Emaciation, starvation, forced labor, massacre, lack of medicine, sanitation, decent living conditions, or personal freedoms. It is new to us, yet it is familiar. It is a master photograph of rule by dictation. Asan is Buchenwald, Samai is Medici, Agania is Warsaw. Petey is every city where the oppressor in the name of freedom has liberated the populace into slavery. The faces that stare at us are the faces of Poland, Czechoslovakia, of Eastern Germany, for the expression of oppression is the same everywhere. We have seen it on Guam. We have seen it in Korea. We hope it will end there. But as ever, we stand ready to oppose this smothering of freedmen. We are Americans, Marines.